In 2021, we could see not one, not two, not three, but four Edgar Wright projects. This week, it was announced that he might be moving on a project by Amblin, um, and this one has got a good kindred spirit with the cinema from way back. Kevin, Stage 13 could potentially go into production this year. He does have, I believe, two films in the wheelhouse. Yeah, let's talk about Stage 13.
Sure. So as we wait for Edgar Wright's delayed Last Night in Soho, which has been moved to next summer, given the pandemic, he's been busy sort of attaching himself to all kinds of projects, and Stage 13 is his latest. This has a pretty interesting pedigree. It's written by Simon Rich, who's a longtime Saturday Night Live writer, and the premise is super interesting. It's about the ghost of a silent film actress who's been haunting a soundstage, at a studio for years, and a struggling director meets this apparition, and together they form a friendship, and I guess decide to make their mark on the world. It might seem like a bit of an odd premise, but for me, for anyone who follows Edgar Wright on social media, he is a huge cinephile, and I think the opportunity to tell a genre story that touches on the silent film era is probably one that's really, really exciting for him.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a filmmaker now, and now, of course, I forget his name. The one that did Barbarian Sound Studio.
Peter Strickland.
Yeah, Peter Strickland. So I think there's sort of an interest here in terms of the process. I'm thinking also back to some like fun hitch films from the 30s, and some of Hollywood's screwball comedies of the 40s. This is, I think, something of a different pace for this filmmaker. Um, Certainly not something that I would that we can attach to his former material. I mean, he's done so many films since like Shaun of the Dead-esque time, but it is in his wheelhouse in terms of poking fun and having characters that uh, sort of like poke each other around. And I'm thinking of Larry, Moe, and Curly, but yeah, sort of like I feel as if there's some slapsticky elements here, and maybe some Mel Brooks-ish vibes to this. Um, I'm not familiar with the scribe, but he appears to have been um, something of an entity as of late. So this story is part of a collection of stories that he put out in 2019 called Hits and Misses. Um, and yeah, when I was looking at this, I was thinking, is this the right material for Wright? And I would agree with you. He is a fan of cinema, and I think every serious filmmaker ends up making a film about filmmaking. I'm thinking of Truffaut. I'm thinking of yeah, some of the the better ones like Fellini, and nothing comes to mind of any
Well,
recent filmmakers.
even this year, David Fincher will have Mank.
Yeah,
Um, every filmmaker I think wants to investigate the world that they love so much, and I think this is a chance for Edgar Wright to do it. Um, so yeah, it's easy to see why he's interested in this, and just to circle back to Simon Rich, he he's a name that you probably are going to recognize on the credits for An American Pickle that's coming up. He is the writer and producer of that film.
uh,
So he spent quite a few years on Saturday Night Live, but he is really emerging as a really unique comic voice, and having Edgar Wright take on this project is another sort of stamp on that.
And so Edgar Wright also has a competing project, I believe, set up elsewhere, I think with Universal.
Yeah, he has a couple. He has a couple films. He has The Chain, which is sort of a thriller setup. I'm not sure if it's at Universal or not. Yeah, it is. I believe it's at. Yeah, that one's
The
at
story of a
Universal.
kidnapper kidnapping a kidnapped. It was quite complex as
As a
a
premise.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then earlier this year, in the spring, he set up. He attached himself to Set My Heart to 5, which is an android love story set in the year 2054. And then, as you mentioned at the top, he has a couple projects that could be on the way in addition to Last Night in Soho. He has an untitled documentary about the band Sparks, who are writing the songs for Annette, that's coming out next year. That's really highly anticipated. So I wonder if that documentary will tie into the release of that film. And he also has an animated film called Shadows at DreamWorks, which is apparently in post, which could also come next year. So a very busy time for Edgar Wright.
I'm Eric Lavallée. I'm editor-in-chief and site owner for IONCINEMA.com. And this is
Kevin Jagernauth, contributing writer for the playlist.
And together we are IndieSponge.